question so you could call it a day. They aren't the smartest things in the world, are they? Ask me a question.
I must tell you that your country truly fascinates me. Here at the beginning of a new millennium, the most visible signs of change for America is that it continues to get stronger and more influential in the world. Yet for a country with so much influence, it's made up of so many disparate parts. You people on the East Coast seem to move at a different pace than everyone else, yet all the pieces somehow fit together. Colonial reachings have even brought places like Alaska and Hawaii into the fold. What will your future be like? Will there be 55 states in 100 years? Will there be no states at all? These are the things I think about. And I'm sure you have too.
Ask me a question.
Blah, blah, blah.
Give him a minute, he'll talk.
Happy?
I love you, no joking. Ask me a question. Ask me a question.
Well, I found out a little about you based on where we live. Now I'm curious if you've learned anything about your fellow humans based on where they live. Tell me, have you ever traveled abroad?
Yes.
Where did you go the last time you traveled?
Florida. Oh, crap.
That's hardly abroad, my dear friend.
Oh, they mean out
I
state.
mean, have you been to somewhere outside your country? Let's try this again. Have you or haven't you been outside of the U.S.?
Panama.
I've never heard of that, so I'm sure you're making it up, or you've got cotton balls in your mouth. Let's try this again. What's the last place you traveled to outside the U.S.?
Virgin Islands.
Where did you go the last time you traveled?
St. Thomas.
I've never heard of that,
You won't accept it.
so I'm sure you're
Naming all
making
the places
it
I
up,
went to.
or you've got cotton balls in your mouth. Let's try this again. What's the last
try Panama
place you
again.
traveled to outside the U.S.?
Panama.
Central America. I'm guessing life there is a bit less hectic than what you're used to here in the eastern U.S. And the climate was probably a lot better too, assuming you like warm, clear weather. I'm glad to hear you've traveled a bit. You know the expression about walking a mile in someone's shoes? Well, walking a mile in their country is the next best thing. You have no idea how much you don't know about a person until you find out about their home. Humans always seem to play it too safe. They stay in their own little world instead of realizing that the world belongs to those that live in it. And if you don't travel it and learn about it, you're not really living in it, you see. Besides, think of all the hot bods you can meet overseas.
Ask me a question. He's not going to respond, damn it. Ask me a question.
I have another point to make regarding travel and culture. Shall I share it with you?
Yes.
Okay then. Whether or not you've traveled abroad, you're part of an ever-shrinking world. Sure, you know that. There's even a song about it being a small world after all, but never in history has it become so important to be familiar with and tolerant of other peoples and their cultures. You and your descendants will be forced to deal more and more with people from all over the world. Think of the effect that will have. Cultures will become further mixed. You already see that in small ways, like your pop music with musical styles being combined, in your food with fusion cuisine. It's a natural result of the world's economy becoming mixed, the prevalence of the internet, cheaper, faster travel. The end result will more likely be that there may be no more countries to speak of in the future. The world will be more of a cohesive unit, just as it happened in the United States and is already happening in Europe. That to me is very exciting.
Oh. Ask me a question.
And there it is. See you later.
No.
Well, that's quite a compliment.
Ask me a question.
I have a question for you. You see, watching you every day like this, I see you come and go, to and from work, in and out of the house. It's kind of like observing apes must be for you. Each monkey has its own lot in life, set of rules to follow, and it follows them, regardless of how it feels at that moment or what it might rather be doing. Of course, it can be rather comfortable for me to relax all day, but then again I still get antsy and crave things which, due to my physique, are impossible to accomplish. I have to admit that I envy you somewhat, that you may be so productive and make differences within your own culture, but I know that the grass is always some other color on your neighbor's lawn, so to speak, so I'm really curious. Are you happy with your job?
No.
Well, I guess that figures in this day and age. It's too bad, since society seems to think your work is what defines you, and maybe it does. Action is certainly more noticeable than ideals, isn't it? So tell me, are you planning on switching career paths anytime soon?
Yes.
Well, that's good. When you're unhappy with something, it's important to take steps to change it. After all, what is life without happiness? And a job, I hate to say, takes up an awful lot of one's life. Too much for it not to affect their personal lives. It seems as if a career can be a very important thing to a person, and I really think that's good for your society as a whole. And if people do what they love, then their output will no doubt be worlds apart than if they don't. Even some humans get a little carried away with work and forget their individualities. But if you look at, say, ants, for example, they are not defined by themselves, but their missions in life, often to gather food, and that is their career, so to speak. You are all one large, purposeful machine, whether or not you realize this day by day. If you get stuck doing something you're not fond of, then the machine becomes creakier and eventually collapses. This is why I believe that each worker must truly enjoy the work she or he is set out to do. It sounds as if it's about time you move on to something new, don't you think? I simply can't imagine spending quite so much time doing something that doesn't leave me content at the end of the day. Well, anyway, it was nice chatting with you. I'll be seeing you around then.
Ask me a question.
You know, in the Olympics, in the swimming competitions, they have events for the breaststroke and the butterfly and the backstroke. But for the crawl stroke, they call it freestyle. Why is that? Every one of those humans looks like they're swimming exactly the same anyway. Where is the liberty? I just don't get it.
Ask me a question.
I'm not your trained monkey, all right?
Jerk. Jerk.
That's right. You will respect me now.
Would you like to save and end the session?